Hello and welcome to Pain. I'm Amon and I try beating the Warcraft 3 Undead campaign without building anything. That means no building buildings, no building units, and no building mercenaries. So what I start the level with is all I'm going to get. And on the hardest difficulty, of course. I managed to beat the whole human campaign without building anything, so I thought I was well prepared for what is to come. But little did I know, this was going to be one of the hardest challenges I have ever done. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have a no build mission to go through before the suffering begins. And if you thought the first level was going to be a breeze because you don't get to build anything, you will be wrong. The objective of this one is to find 24 acolytes, and for the war criminal within us, there is also my personal objective of killing as many civilians as possible. Now, what I usually do on this level is just speedrun it by running up on the acolytes, and that finishes the level in 5 minutes. However, this level has something I want, or rather need, and it's items. So instead of winning in 5 minutes, I spent 20 minutes getting every single item I can get on this level because trust me, I'm going to need them. After getting everything worthwhile, I collected all acolytes and it's time to kill a daddy paladin.
Pain, the beautiful pain!
And if you thought I was hoarding items for this mission, you would also be wrong. In fact, this is another mission where I'm going to collect as many items as possible without using any. The goal of this mission is to kill a bunch of paladins. And after I did the intro segment, I was given a weird composition of a bunch of ghouls and almost just as many catapults. The game expects me to build a base here, and the great thing about the level is that the enemies don't start attacking until I've built it. So I will never get attacked on this level. For the first paladin, I tried to only bait him with Arthas, but once he is attacked, the rest of his guys follow, which turned into a literal bloodbath. Honestly, it's a miracle that only an acolyte managed to die in this fight. Then I destroyed the first barracks and I started attacking an unassuming tree line in the bottom. This is because I can hit the other barracks from the top, so that means no more enemy production on this level. Every kill is a permanent kill. Since attacking the paladin pulls everyone else after me, I tried baiting the defenders instead, and that worked like a charm. I managed to kill everybody except for him. And while I was waiting for Arthas to get his health back, I got bored. So I tried to hit the paladin with my death coil, and turns out he doesn't mind. So I used it to take most of his health down, and he easily fell after that. Only Uther remains now. There are a couple of knights and footmen next to him, however Uther has such a strong heal that it would be better if I kill those first. So I brought Arthas behind them and I took them down one by one until only Uther was left. And then I attacked him with my whole army, and it was barely enough. I was only left with a couple of meat wagons and 2 acolytes. But it was enough. Then I picked the urn from Uther's corpse and that was it. I said, and that was it. Wow, seriously? I beat the whole level, got what Arthas came here for, and they still want me to build my base. This is just lazy level design, nothing else. By the way, I even tried killing my workers and the game just softlocks me after that. So whatever, I don't even feel bad about it. I managed to beat the whole level without building anything, this is just so I can get that last checkbox. So I started building the buildings, and in the meantime I roamed the woods for some items, and that was it. Ah, Blizzard. You still find ways to disappoint me even after so many years.
Skeletons, Nana, human skeletons.
And here we go. The first of the 3 elf missions, and they are all going to be equally painful. This is the mission I have been collecting all my items for. In the beginning, I used my starting forces to go south, and I destroyed the enemy initial attack force, which actually had an elven princess within it. Unfortunately, she managed to resist my charms as a prince, so I couldn't bring her to my bedroom. I mean, on a dinner date. After taking care of that, I arrived at a shop where I bought a couple of potions, which I'm going to use in the final push. Next to the shop, there is a gnoll camp, which holds an item of particular interest. Thankfully, it's not located on the enemy units, but it's located in one of the huts. So I destroyed the path to it with my catapults and I quickly stole it before they noticed me. It's a Book of the Dead which summons a bunch of skeletons to fight for me. The goal of the mission is to destroy the enemy base in the bottom right. Unfortunately, on my way there is a blue base which never attacks but has a bunch of defenders. So instead of fighting these defenders, I baited them with archers to the north, while the rest of my army sneakily moved past the base. And surprisingly, most of them managed to survive this migration. I only lost a meat wagon and a ghoul. I also almost lost Arthas, but he came back to the shop, stocked up on more potions, and quickly joined my army south. Next, another attack wave started going after me, but with some good micro I managed to get through it unharmed. The wave also had the Elven Princess within it, so since she's dead now, she can't defend her base anymore. And this is it. The moment the past 2.5 missions of collecting items led to. The moment that I spent hours mapping this route and preparing for. The final showdown between my army and a bunch of enemy defenders in the base. First, I told my necromancers to start making skeletons. I've been saving their mana the whole game. Then I used my Book of the Dead and made a bunch of skeletons to fight for me. The fight was tough, the enemy kept pumping out units, but I managed to do it with seemingly a lot of units remaining. And then my skeletons expired, and turns out I was only left with my necromancers, acolytes, and a meat wagon. And they had to finish off the remaining couple of enemy buildings. But they did it. By the way, I didn't finish the level just yet. I went after a gnoll camp to the south to get some items, and I also quickly ran to the middle to buy some more potions for the next mission. And then I was ready to finish this level and end this nightmare.
Got a present for you. Put a little surprise under your tree.
But if you thought the nightmares were over, think again. Welcome to the second Elven mission. This one features 3 cages with items I need to steal, while only having these couple of units. And the cages are located in the middle of highly defended enemy bases. You think it can be done? Well, I thought so too. But then I started working on a plan. Besides my starting units, the game also gave me 2 free airships, and those airships are going to be worth their weight in gold. Now I can travel around the map with all my units packed inside. The first place I traveled was a portal that brought me to the back of the green enemy base. That base has few units built at the beginning of the level, so it's my first target. And I unloaded all my units next to the cage and I took it down. Then I picked up as many units as I can and I got out of there. Unfortunately, there is no safe place for me to land and repair my ships, so I landed 2 acolytes near the portal and I prayed nobody would spot me there. After repairing my ships, I got behind a teal enemy's cage, which I also destroyed. I did lose a couple more units, but the important ones to keep are the spiders, necromancers, and the catapult. And at least 1 acolyte for repairs. Again, I got out, but I didn't go far. I went next to the enemy portal again, and I started repairing. I also repaired my catapult, but to prevent it from targeting a nearby enemy, I told him to attack some trees. After finishing this part, I moved to the northeast, where I started fighting a couple of defenders, which need to be taken down after I destroy all cages. And it's not like this intricate plan came out of the blue. This is also a level that took me hours of mapping and preparation to get things done. And after I took them down, I repaired my ships again. You will see why I destroyed the defenders first. The last enemy has a bunch of defenders around the last cage, so I told all my units to get into a ship, told them to go behind the cage, let the first empty ship so-called shots, and then I told everybody to start attacking the cage. When I took it down, I got Arthas back to the ship, and we went to the final island. And somehow, someway, this Goblin transport service ship managed to survive with me and a spider friend inside it, and I won. This was yet another mission that took me hours to prepare for. But don't you worry, there are plenty more to come.
I feel like we're forgetting something.
One such mission is the final Elven mission in this campaign. But the only thing to remember here is that for whatever reason, when I tell all my units to quickly go south when the level begins, this utterly breaks the level. How this level usually works is that Sylvanas attacks your base, and when she is wounded, she retreats and triggers the famous runner section. and this gives you access to gargoyles which you can use to kill the runners. Turns out, when you bring all your units south, she doesn't attack you at all. So you can carelessly attack the enemy base that was supposed to produce the runners. They don't produce any units until the objective is triggered. So you can just kill the couple of pre-placed defenders inside, and that's it. By the way, we are 5 missions in, and only now do I get an upgrade building to buy some upgrades. Then I moved to the middle of the map, and this is where Sylvanas was hiding after her trigger broke. So I took her down as well. And now, after dealing with her for 3 missions straight, she managed to succumb to my Prince Charm, and she decided to go Netflix and chill with me. I mean, on a prayer session at the local church.
Lord Arthas, the elf woman will likely attempt to summon reinforcements.
Then watch for her runners. None of them must get through.
You can see that the trigger is completely broken because they start talking about runners while the runner base lies in ruins. So yeah, now I can officially say that I broke Warcraft 3. The rest of the level was pretty easy. I broke into the city, I rescued a couple of troll friends behind some rocks, and then I destroyed the enemy base. This allowed me to have infinite time until the level ends, so I bought an infinity of potions to help me on the next level. Trust me, I will need them. Then I took care of the last defenders, and finally, the elven portion of this campaign is done. And now we have come to the orc portion of the campaign. Well, it's only one level, but it's a really painful one. Here I started with an actually solid number of units, but the enemy has a whopping 5 bases, and I'm gonna be destroying all of them. In the beginning, I get attacked by a little attack wave which gave me a tome as a reward for killing it. Then I moved to the blue base in the west, which didn't have that many defenders, so it fell easily. Next was the brown ogre base, which had a bunch of chunky boys defending it. It was a bit harder to take down, but it was still pretty easy. The enemy occasionally attacks me, but my composition is full of flyers and they can quickly come to defend the base. Next up is the light blue base, which trains Goblin Sudoku bombers, which have to be killed as soon as I see them, or they will Sudoku in my face. But I still managed to take that one out as well. Next was the orange base, and that one was just insane. They train a bunch of warlocks which just spam spells like stun onto my heroes. I tried breaching it from the south, but that entrance was too hot. Then I tried from the west, and I managed to kill their hero, and the base fell after that. I said this in the last video, but it bears repeating. This isn't a deathless challenge, but with any unit I lose some of my damage output, so I can't afford to lose anyone until the end of the level. Thankfully, with some good microing and healing, the first 4 bases weren't that bad. But there was one more base left, and that one is the worst. But before attempting anything, I found a shop where I restocked on potions. I bought a lot of them last level, but this level I fought 4 bases already, so I'm a bit empty. And that last base also has a theme. They built dragons. Giant dragons with 2200 health who deal splash chaos damage. So I had to get creative on how to deal with those. I used Arthas to attack the south of the base and pull defenders onto him, while the rest of my guys started attacking the west. When Arthas was low on health, he retreated, and so did the guys on the left. Despite the enemy defenders being insane, they need some time to build up their units, and thankfully that time is longer than Arthas needs to gobble up a couple of health potions and get back in the game. So I did that a couple more times, and it was time for a clash of armies. The enemy attacked me with 3 drakes at once, and I lost half of my army, but I still had half of it, while the enemy only had their hero, which I killed after that. Then I slowly started taking care of the remaining buildings, and I just took out any individual units that came out. After I took out the House of the Dragon, the level was over. In the end, I temporarily left one building standing so I can stock up on more potions. God knows I'm gonna need them.
You're a wizard, Harry.
But as everyone knows, before the epic finale, there is always a throwaway mission. So here we go. In this mission, I have to commit Wizzard genocide. Wizardside. And to do that, they actually gave me a solid number of units to start with, led by a couple of abominations. And these guys can constantly get healed with my death coil, which makes them basically immortal. Throughout the level, I found a bunch of golems trapped in cages, so my army managed to become stronger and stronger with each attack. For whatever reason, this mission is actually really easy. There is supposed to be a mechanic where if I bring one of my units onto the blue floor, it takes damage. But since most of my units are either really chunky or mechanical, I didn't feel it at all. So I slaughtered my way to the end, got a couple of neat items, and it was time for the only interesting thing on this level, the final boss fight. Unfortunately, or rather very fortunately, most of my units stayed alive, so despite the chief wizard having a bunch of defenders in his arena, when I managed to focus him down with a couple of spells, he easily fell. And now it's time for the finale.
I'm in danger!
You know, in my challenge runs, the last mission often ends up being pretty easy. The toughest missions are usually somewhere in the middle of the run. In this run, nearly all missions were the toughest missions. The last one especially so. The first thing I did here was use Arthas to collect 12 goblin landmines located in the upper left. After that, I rushed to the pink enemy base. The enemy here has 3 bases, a meme dwarf base which sends anti-building stuff, a griffin base which is strong but rarely attacks, and this incredibly annoying standard sorcerer knight footman base which attacks all the time and with incredible force. I'm supposed to defend from all 3 of these, but I decided to go on the offense. I gained 12 landmines in the beginning, and these landmines really pack a punch. Turns out they are enough to take out most of this base. 3 landmines were enough to blow up the altar, I set 3 next to the 2 barracks, and I set 3 next to the giant pile of enemies I was surrounded by. Then I used an invisibility potion that I had been holding onto for 4 missions, and I was free to watch them burn down. By the way, this is another one of those strategies that took me a bunch of time to map out and perfect. The enemy was left without any defenders, so I used my starting forces to finish it off. And that was it. The most annoying base was dead. Then it was time to do some preparations for the final fight. I destroyed a camp that gave me a damage aura item, and I paired that with the armor aura and the mana aura items that I gained on previous levels. And I gave them all to my lich friend who needs to be defended. Turns out you can give items to a friendly unit even if you don't have control of them. And this is something that is going to be very handy in the Orc campaign. For the remainder of the level, I didn't get attacked all that much. It's like there was supposed to be another base that constantly attacks me or something. But there were a couple of huge griffin attack waves, but with some good microing I managed to fend those off without too many problems. I also spent a lot of time killing as many defenders that the dwarf base had, because the less units they have defending the base, the less units they're gonna send after me at the end. And the reason for that is because in the end, the enemy sends everything, and I mean everything they have to stop me. And that includes their workers. Which totally makes sense lore-wise, but it makes my life a real nightmare. In the end, the enemy attacked with everything they had, but I managed to surround my lich, and my units managed to soak up most of the shots. In the end, they all died, but the enemy just couldn't breach the lich, who was pumped with so many armor items that he ended up having 20 armor in the end. And that was it. A gruesome ending to a gruesome challenge run. And yeah, contrary to what I believed when I started this challenge, it is in fact possible to beat every undead mission on the hardest difficulty without building anything. And yeah, I'm also counting that one bullshit mission where I also killed everybody without building anything, even if my hand was forced with that one. But yeah, I actually managed to do it, and I've gotta say, it was so much fun. This challenge actually felt like a real puzzle game, because I would start most levels in this campaign with virtually not a single building, and I would have to use my small force of units, who usually don't get any reinforcements, to take out the objectives. Next up is the Orc campaign. Thankfully that one should be easier than this one. I mean, it's not like there's a mission where I have to kill a literal deity with 5 starting units, or a mission where I have to gather 15,000 lumber while only having 6 workers. But that's a problem for next time. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you liked the video, it really does help out. And I guess I'll see you in the Orc campaign. Peace!